Welcome to the next episode of Next Creators. Today we have Neil Haran from Robots. Hi, Neil.
Hi, Sasha. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So maybe we can start with what is Robots?
So, Rawbots is a sandbox robot building game, and currently it is pretty much a sandbox toolkit where you can build robots and you can explore planets. But where it's going to go is a multiplayer universe where you can battle against people, you can explore far off planets, and do all kinds of things that you would expect from an MMO of this caliber.
That's really cool. Maybe we can start first to talk about your background a bit. Where did you grow up?
Yeah, so I grew up in a country called Bahrain, which is the closest country to Saudi Arabia. And then I moved to Vancouver when I was 11, where I spent much of my life.
hmm And did you get into software engineering fairly early in your career?
Yeah, so I actually originally wanted to be a pilot, but that didn't quite work out for a few reasons, including my insomnia. And I ended up picking up software engineering just as something more constructive to study. And I wasn't interested in it initially, just figured I should study something that would give me a good future. But then I found out I was quite decent at it. And I've always enjoyed solving problems. So that was a good path for that.
hmm And how did gaming come into this? Were you playing games growing up?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say I was that much of a gamer, but yeah, I did play games growing up, and I had an interest in it. I wouldn't say I was a hardcore gamer though. But interestingly enough, as I started building games, I stopped playing them. And the thing is, as I was playing games, I realized that I was more dissecting how things worked in the game as opposed to actually playing them. So I would say that getting into game development kind of, in a way, ruined games for me from a playing aspect.
Wow. And how did you decide generally to chart your progression going into gaming or other spaces? What do you value in a kind of career, and how did you decide in terms of joining different organizations?
Yeah. So since my focus in school was game development, I would say that it was a natural path that I just fell into. So as you know, going into programming, the idea of programming widgets or say programming for a tractor wasn't too appealing to me at the time. Games were simply more exciting than anything else available. So yeah, getting into games and like programming for games was easy from that aspect. In terms of what I valued knowledge, pretty much knowledge. I looked at my early days working and pretty much my career as simply an extension to school. I believe that I've learned a great deal more working than I ever did in an educational institution. So that's how I picked the companies that I worked at as well, just as a chance to grow and learn.
And how did the gaming industry evolve as you joined it early on and up until now, from your perspective?
Well, the gaming industry has taken on quite a bit of an evolution from the various focuses. So I've spent a lot of time in traditional gaming initially, and so obviously the games have gotten better looking with more immersive gameplay, and obviously you're seeing things like VR. And but then I also worked for social gaming, where we focused on different kinds of evolutions to that space, which is like focusing on more of the engagement mechanics and how interactions between players happen, from a social sense. So yeah, lots of evolutions. I'd say that right now in blockchain and gaming, we're quite early, and we're kind of seeing new evolutions to that space as well with like play to earn models. So I'm pretty excited about seeing how the space evolves here as well.
hmm And when did you encounter actually crypto for the first time, Web3 or blockchain?
Yeah, so I actually been following Bitcoin since when it was beginning. So I would say, well, late 2010 is when I learned about Bitcoin, and I actually looked at the blockchain. I looked at the code for Bitcoin at that time. But so blockchain is kind of the buzzword and has been the buzzword for a long time to express decentralization or distributed systems. But there are other different technologies as well. So I would say that I'm a huge fan and an advocate for a distributed internet, a truly distributed internet.
And how do you think about it? Like, what is the biggest compelling piece there for you?
Uh, having having democracy built into something that not any one person can control.
Hmm. And how did you specifically encounter like robots? How did that idea come to be? How did you decide to work on it?
So both my co-founder and I at the time really wanted to launch games that had educational value. We launched a few games that didn't really work before, and then we went to the drawing board, and Robots was born. The idea was to try to create something like a completely applied learning experience where you didn't tell the player anything, but let curiosity dictate the learning progression. For example, when you start off in Robots, you're on a planet, and you can see planets to either side of you, but you can't get to them. You have to build a robot that can fly. So that was what we intended, right? Just you're learning by kind of this curiosity.
Interesting. So you basically start like kind of noticing the constraints, such as you need to travel and you cannot, and so you kind of start picking up different skills and functionalities.
Yes, exactly.
Interesting. How do you think actually it will affect the like educational space and how people learn? Do you think the learning will move towards like more like immersive experiences like this?
Yeah. So applied learning, I mean, I think there's been a lot of data that has shown that applied learning does in fact work. And it's, having interactive experiences are a great way to learn by doing. So the way I see like a game like Robots helping change the face of education is having online classes in like virtual classes on planets where you're encouraging kids to build robots, learn math, and then battle each other. I can't think of a more fun way to learn STEM classes.
That's really cool. And so, when did you decide to actually combine those ideas that you had for a while with Web3?
Yeah, so Web 3.0 has been exciting for a lot of reasons. So I've been involved with a few projects before that have tried to be completely on chain. And, just the idea of having something completely exist autonomously as a live growing experiment that, developers themselves can't even shut down. I think that's the holy grail vision, right? It's you put it out on the internet and that's it. It's like it's just growing. It's becoming its thing. I think that's the ultimate vision, but we also have to ask whether what's feasible. Not all games are built the same, right? So a game like Robots currently isn't completely on chain. So I wouldn't call Robots Web 3.0. It's aiming to be in kind of a hybrid mode where it can you have assets and everything that are on chain, but it'd be very unrealistic at this point to put physics and to put like the amount of data that robots would generate from simply just the positions of different objects, explosions, things like that of that nature to put completely on chain. It'd be very expensive as well. But yeah, I think that a transition towards Web 3.0 is the future. So I'm pretty excited about that future.
Hmm. And how do you think about like just building compelling gaming experiences, like those immersive worlds? What is the hardest piece there? What is the most important to focus on as you like building this?
What I would say is it fun and easy to get into? Like how engaging is it, especially with multiplayer, right? So generally in games, the story is important, but with sandbox games like this, I think it's the tech tree and skill building, like how the player advances, levels up, achieves mastery. I think is quite important. That upgrade path for spaceships, robot parts, how you upgrade to level up, create better robots, and have get this feeling of being able to participate in bigger and badder battles.
Hmm. And how is this development process working? Would you work with like your early community and understand like what is compelling, what is not, how to change this tech tree? Or is it more kind of like on you? You have to kind of like figure it out on your own.
So our end final vision is to create a fully online metaverse, like it's a persistent universe where all the players are on, in this universe, battling each other, doing all kinds of stuff, right? Interacting with each other in ways we can't even predict. So I would say that would probably dictate kind of where some of the focus might go. Like take education for example. My hope is that we might see teachers start to use robots as a virtual environment where they can teach kids or interact with kids in a much better way, and that could be an interesting side path where we might put more features in to allow teachers to give more personalized learning outcomes for each kid. So maybe kids learn in different ways. Maybe kids learn at different paces. So having, utilizing AI to, for example, to being able to analyze how someone is learning and helping them learn in a more efficient way. So that's just an example of perhaps a direction that we might go. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting as we launch this experiment.
Yeah, sounds like you really want to make education more like personalized, right? Like it seems like the education today is a lot more like mass production.
Right, exactly. One size fits all and quite dry. So, but while I say that, I would say that the game it's not going to be forcing education on people. Well, I think we've learned that from previous attempts anyway. That most people would just want to play and have fun. They don't necessarily want to go down an educational path. So, educational path will be very. It's almost hidden. It's like if you want to go down that path, there it is for you.
Hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like trade-off between like entertainment and education. Some people would do education, a lot of people would do entertainment. And when it comes to also game engines, I remember I had conversation with you about Unity, about Unreal Engine, upcoming version 5. How do you think about capabilities associated with those engines?
So we originally built our game on Unity, which at the time was quite lacking in areas like spatial partitioning and like how much geometry you could throw on screen, for example. But the Unreal Engine, I think it's very hard to match the capabilities of the Unreal Engine when it comes to rendering capabilities, how it handles level of detail, spatial partitioning of the scene. I think it'd be very hard to find something that matches it, but there are trade-offs. I mean, this is purely from a for a desktop slash web experience. You wouldn't be able to really do the mobile aspect of it with the Unreal Engine. I mean, it's practically for the desktop and web experience. So yeah, I mean, with Nanite, you can throw like a seemingly unlimited amount of geometry on screen. You've got dynamic lighting with Lumen, and you've got amazing world building tools that can generate very realistic terrain. So the list kind of goes on. But yeah, like one pretty awesome part with the Unreal Engine is we also get access to their code, so we can modify and extend functionality as well without having to wait for future releases.
Hmm. And in this early stage of development, what is the main focus for you at Robots at this point in time?
Yeah, it's to build a great game that's easy to get into and also provide a deeper play to earn experience. So deeper play to earn mechanics that are more than just simply players grinding their way to earning something, but for example, like the robot building, engineering services, to upgrade robots. It's kind of that vision from the Ready Player One movie. You've got different kinds of services offered within this metaverse, and you allow for people to earn money through more depth.
Yeah, and sounds like yeah, play to earn is kind of becoming this big trend, but you also kind of don't want to overdo it because that's like incentives component, and that's what blockchain brings to the table. But you also need to balance it with really good gameplay. Sounds like right.
Agreed.
Hmm. And what do you think is the most challenging part about building something as complex as robots?
So the big vision is to create this full like metaverse experience, right? And yeah, like I would say that at the moment, I feel like the term metaverse also seems to be a bit unclear. It seems to be quite liberally used to describe all kinds of things. It like seems like many games that I'd never even consider to be a metaverse are being included in that definition. So, like for example, while we're at it, we can call this Zencaster a metaverse as well. I mean, why not, right? But yeah, like I think our overall vision is quite ambitious. What I consider that full metaverse experience is, everyone online and interacting with each other. And this currently has to be done in stages. But the other challenging aspect I would say would be to find a good balance between control schemes. So currently, how Robots is structured, it was meant to be an educational game. With how much you can do in the game, it makes certain things more complicated. So like finding the balance in how you build robots, like how you build, it should be as easy to use as Lego. Having simplicity in controls, and also separating out the educational aspects such that it's not visible unless you willingly venture down that path.
Hmm. And as you go towards this path, I'd be curious, just outside of also robots, what kinds of mentors and books like really inspire you or help you navigate your way around the industry?
Yeah. Well, early on, I would say the Game Gems series was very helpful in helping me become a better game developer. But I've been helped by many in all shapes and forms throughout my life. Some of the lessons that I've picked up have been way outside the gaming experience, but have helped me with game development. I think the big takeaways for me were around like how you approach a problem. For me, the desire is to build something of value today, especially. It's to build something of value. It's not like personal wealth. I'd say spiritually, the things that I've also picked up, the lessons there have also helped me throughout my career and everything that I'm doing today.
Hmm. And how do you decide which ideas are good enough for you to spend your time on, what to pursue? How do you think about like what motivates you, and how do you decide like, okay, like robots is exactly what I want to work on versus other things?
Yeah. So when we had launched Robots, we had kind of put that out there, and we were seeing how well it was going to do, how the space was going to take it. And around that time is when I kind of burned out, and I decided to get very much into activism and primarily relating to world peace. And so a lot of the projects that I've been involved with over the past years have been to some degree in line with that vision of building cooperative networks and creating win-wins within that network to incentivize cooperative behavior or positive behavior for the network. So that's really what motivates me at the end of the day. It's like to help be part of that future vision of a connected world where we can work towards cooperation within that network, working with each other to find win-wins. I don't want to say to incentivize good behavior because, it's like in game theory, you don't really look at good and bad. You look at actors that are, beneficial for the network and defection and agents that defect, but you look at how you help strengthen that network. And so that is what motivates me. I feel like that is key to world peace at the end of the day.
Interesting. Can you expand maybe a little bit on like world peace? How you think about it? Where we are on this journey as a humanity, and how do kind of like cooperative networks fit into this?
Yeah, so when I think of world peace, I think of a prerequisite for world peace is building cooperative networks. And that's what also really excited me about just decentralization, blockchain technology primarily. It's like how it is an integral part in creating a distributed world, a world where you have a dense interconnection of people all interacting with each other without middlemen, or without middle people, without, so much authority, right? It's like we're moving away from that and we're moving closer towards a future where people can interact with each other using distributed systems. So that I feel like we're on that path to creating cooperative networks without the aid of politicians to show us how we should be doing things, right? So I think less and less control is going the way of. I see that. I mean, it could be wrong, but I feel like as decentralization becomes more prevalent, we're going to have true democracy, and that I think is key for a future vision where we're all working together in cooperative networks.
Hmm. And sounds like those networks are more like peer-to-peer in nature
Correct.
as opposed to hierarchical.
Yeah. Exactly.
And how do you right now spend your day to day as your like early days of building it right now? How do you maybe like also keep up to speed with everything that's happening in both gaming and Web3?
Well, first off, I guess how I spend my day, I would say that I spend my day meditating first. I really try to clearly see, first of all, what path is ahead of me and try to be in the present moment.
Hmm. And where do our listeners find more information about robots online? Where would you send them?
So I would suggest joining our Discord group, and you can see our Discord group, a link to that on our website, rawbots.org. And yeah, I would suggest like joining the Discord group and downloading the current playable. Even though it's quite raw and has a steep learning curve, I think it would help in seeing the current challenges that we're overcoming and just in general just get a sense of what the game is going to be like.
Hmm. And lastly, for somebody who might be crypto curious but still has some hesitations, maybe in listener audience, what kinds of words of wisdom would you have in terms of like encouragement of joining Web3 space?
To be patient and go with your path, the path that you're on. You don't have to do everything on chain right away because everyone's jumping on that. So go with it at your pace. I would say that don't let buzzwords dictate where you go. Approach it at your own pace.
Well, thanks a lot. Thank you for this insights.
Thank you so much, Sasha.